Modern Marriage, a show where we explore modern marriage from every angle, including our own relationship. I'm Allison Raskin. I'm a New York Times bestselling author, relationship coach, and mental health advocate, and I convinced my husband, John, to do this podcast with me.
And I'm John Blakesley, Allison's husband, the author of the Substack Wrong Man for the Job, which is number 3 rising in culture on Substack as of this morning.
Wow, so we are recording this on, I don't know what day, August 29th, and you launched yesterday.
Yesterday, yeah.
And it was one of the most exciting days of our lives.
Shocking. I didn't sleep most of the night because it's a very personal essay that I wrote that also shows some of my own bad behavior. And I was like really worried that the only people that would read it was like your dad, your family, and they'd be like, who is this nut job that is in our family? And maybe like one or two other people. And then it turned out like it really resonated with people, and it's been so gratifying personally, but also just to hear all people's stories who have gone through similar things as me. As I'm often see the bad side of the internet, and so it was like really cool to see the like supportive, lovely side of the internet where people can connect. So it was a good corrective for me, honestly, that this internet thing can also be good sometimes.
Yeah, that's the part that keeps you going.
Yeah.
If it was bad all the time, I would have given up years ago.
Right.
Well, we teased it a little bit, but we have a particularly vulnerable episode for everyone today. I hope that was the right descriptor. I looked up synonyms for estrangement, but there weren't any.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking for the first time on the show about John's estrangement, my estrangement, from his parents and the roller coaster that has brought into his life, his entire life, and then our marriage since we met. So buckle up.
Buckle up, yeah. Just some light, easy topics. Sit back.
But before we get into all of that, we have got to do everyone's favorite segment of the show. It's time for Marriage Moment TM.
Wow. You know, you're really hitting your stride. Do you think about them at all before you do it, or is it totally in the moment, jazz baby?
Totally in the moment.
Wow.
Yeah. And my brain doesn't seem to be working as well as normal, so
Right.
I'm glad that I got anything out, to be
Right,
honest.
because you have another human who is
Yeah.
sucking up all of your brain cells and nutrients.
Right. But we did feel the baby kick for the first time yesterday.
He kicked my hand.
I know. Well, you got the last kick in.
That was cool.
That was good.
Very cool.
I was very worried that once I identified that it was indeed a kick, you wouldn't get to feel it.
Right.
But I'm 24 weeks at the time of this recording, and I'm experiencing feeling the kicks a little later than a lot of other pregnant people because I have an interior placenta.
Ooh.
Sexy.
Yeah. Watch out. This is a family show.
It's really not. Which means my placenta is like right in the front of my stomach, so it adds this extra cushion, which is why I thought I would have started to feel him a couple weeks ago, but it took until yesterday.
Yeah.
And he must have had a real kick.
Yeah, he really did.
He was like, hello. So speaking of pregnancy, my marriage moment is related to it, and it happened just yesterday.
Mhm.
Well, I'll set the scene starting 2 nights ago, where I was very nauseous and throwing up somewhat frequently my first the first trimester and 17 weeks of the pregnancy, and then things had gotten better. But then a few days ago, I was dealing a lot with my burping again and like worrying I was going to throw up. And so 2 nights ago, before we went to bed, for some reason I said to you, if I throw up on the floor, will you clean it up?
Yeah, which was really weird. Like, just don't throw up on the floor, but I was like, you were asking me ahead of time?
Well, because I was really tired and I didn't want to have to get up from bed. I was about to go to bed. I didn't want to have to get up from bed. And then
Right.
I didn't want to, I didn't have a pot with me.
But it was unclear because you also asked me that question while you were up. You weren't like in bed yet. You were like, "Hey, just ahead of time, so you were just like, if I throw up on the floor, will you clean it up?"
Yeah,
She's like,
I just like
"What?"
wanted to like feel like I could just get into bed, and
I
then if
see.
I threw up, that would be okay.
That wasn't clear, but I understand.
I should have just gotten a pot.
Right. Or asked me to get a pot.
Yeah. Oh well. Anyway, I avoided it. I didn't throw up. But then yesterday I was burping a ton and feeling bad, and then I went to pee, and while I was peeing, I just threw up on the bathroom floor. Like I just like it was just one of those moments where it was just like, well, I simply do not have the energy or the mental capacity to figure out a way to avoid this.
Anterior placentas throwing up on the bathroom floor while peeing. I mean,
Yeah.
we're just giving the people what they want.
I think so. Or we've lost everyone.
They're all just vomiting into there.
And so then I like it was just like a prophecy come true.
It was a prophecy, yeah.
Because no other time in my pregnancy have I thrown up on the floor.
Yeah.
I guess I could just sense that I've been weakening.
Yeah, you know.
And so I threw up on the floor, and then I got up and I went to the kitchen sink to finish my throw up.
Yeah.
And you are someone who has historically been incredibly squeamish around throw up. We've talked about that on the show before.
You're right.
And you immediately cleaned it up.
I did. Well, the prophecy, you know, I made a vow that I would, in fact, clean it up. And so if I didn't do that, that would have been messed up.
But I felt really bad, and I was like, no, I can do it.
Yeah, you're like vomiting into the sink, and you're like, don't do it. I got it. I'm like, it's fine.
But that was like a real show of strength on your end, like a real evolution.
Right.
And like what you're willing to do and handle, and I was really blown away by it.
I would clean up in a crisis situation. I can help out, and that seemed like a crisis. I just don't want to like interact with it on the regular. It's gross.
Yeah, it's really gross. But thanks for doing that.
Hey, you got it, honey.
I'm gonna try not to do that anymore.
Yeah, maybe there's the toilet. There's
well,
the
I was
bigger
sitting on the
sinks.
toilet.
I understand.
It was confusing. It all happened so fast.
All right, I got a marriage moment for you.
All right.
So it was, I think, the 4th of July a couple years ago. And, I just really wanted to, we live by the marina, and I wanted to just go sit by the water and have a burger and a beer and look out at the boats and just like have a nice time.
Uh-huh.
And
how is this a marriage moment?
I'll find a way.
You'll have to shape it. Yeah,
I'll
this is
find a
more
way.
just like a funny story, but yeah.
And we're waiting for a seat at Hi Ho, and
like a burger joint.
yeah, there's like a
Veggie burger.
a veggie burger, and there's no seats available outside because everyone had the same idea. But there's one seat with a lady, and she's drinking a red wine, which sticks out because it's 4th of July, everyone's having a beer. This is not exactly a wine joint, and she's all by herself, and she's like writing or reading something, and she gestures us over, and she goes, "I'm about to get up. You can take my table."
That was a lie.
Complete lie.
We were suckered in.
We sit down with this lady, about to enjoy the day, have a talk with my wife, enjoy our holiday, and she looks at us and she says, "Do you want to hear a secret?" And we're like, "Okay." She's like, "I'm in love." and Allison's like, "Oh, all right." This lady proceeds to tell us about her lover, how much she loves him, but they kind of just met.
Yeah,
and
I wasn't that hopeful about the relationship, to be honest.
How she wanted her daughter to meet him, right? And then there was like a whole long story about someone dropped a shoe
in the marina.
And
she watched them get it out.
She showed us a video of them getting the shoe out of the marina. Our food comes, our drinks come. She's just talking our ear off. How did we meet? Looking at your engagement ring. And finally, like, we are done with our meal. We're ready to go. And she wants to talk with us more, hang out with us.
I felt so bad for her.
And I said, we have to go now. Have a nice day. It was so nice talking to you. Like, abruptly.
You were so abrupt. After we put in all this effort to be nice and polite to this lady.
You think we ruined it at the end?
Yeah, I think you ruined it, definitely.
And then we finally left, and she was clearly unhappy.
She was mad at you that you'd been so rude.
Absolutely. But I'm mad at her for lying
right,
and
but if we
deceiving
already
us.
had given this lady an hour of our life, at least what we could have done was make her feel good about the interaction.
Right. And so...
How is this a marriage moment?
Because you make me realize that even in the smallest of little interactions where I cut people off, that actually, instead of looking back at that story and saying, oh, wow, she's so annoying, thinking back of like, oh, I could have been kinder. I could have made this, even though she was annoying. And it was rude. I had an opportunity in life to be kind to this person and just make her feel about it. And I didn't do that because I was upset and that she had tricked us. And
you did it up until the very end.
Right. But it's harder for me to see those things. And you in your life and in our marriage makes me see these little moments of to be kind.
Really?
Yes.
Or did you just need a spin for that story?
You also just shouted at me, how is this a marriage moment? So, maybe you could take some of your own medicine, but you do. You remind me to always be kind.
Oh.
And you can always create a kind moment for someone else.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially with everything going on in the world, it can feel like so overwhelming. Like, how do we do anything to like fight what's happening? And I try to like think about like our sphere of influence and just like the daily interactions we have during the day and like, can we make someone's day a little better or at least not worse?
Right. Right.
And that feels like a doable approach rather than like solving what's going on with the CDC.
Right.
Which I'm also trying to do.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about medicine.
You maybe are not the right person for that job.
Okay, well, we have a really lovely... I'm obsessed with this marriage moment that was submitted this week. Our listener writes, this feels very us-coded, I will say. Listener writes, my marriage moment is regarding a bit that my wife does when bird watching. My wife had just started bird watching this year and is often able to sneak in an hour during the workday between clients. I get a call randomly from my wife pretending to be a news reporter doing the bird report. This bit involves a news reporter voice and a report on the bird scene. A crucial part of the bit is that she will not acknowledge that she is the bird report. She will hang up the phone immediately after the bird report, then call me back and pretend as if she was not just talking to me. And we talk about the bird report as if it's a news program that she has no involvement in. I find this to be very funny and charming, and I love her so much.
This is so us-coded. Oh, my God. I think I said that when I responded to them.
Really?
This is exactly...
Well, we often do I'll call you and it'll be like John Blakeslee's office.
Right.
And then I have to like pretend to try to get you. Actually, what I love to do when I answer the phone is I say, go for Allison.
Mm-hmm.
Which is just fun. It's like, let's just add a little fun into the day.
Mm-hmm.
People get thrown.
They really do. I think I was thrown the first time it happened.
But now, do you like it?
Yeah, it's nice. Now I say sometimes go for John when I answer
Right?
when you call me.
This is just like the point of marriage,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
To have these elaborate bits that you stick to.
And you build a mythology
you build
around
a mythology.
who is the bird reporter.
Right. Really. And I love the commitment to it.
Yeah.
So excellent.
You have to.
I think these people will last.
They're going to make it.
They're
yeah.
going to make it.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you want to submit your marriage moment for us to judge the quality of your marriage.
That would be a funny segment where we just judge the quality of their marriage.
Oh my God. As we run out of ideas,
Yeah.
That's just what the show becomes. You can submit your marriage moment to startermarriagepodcast@gmail.com. That's startermarriagepodcast@gmail.com. Welcome back to Starter Marriage. It's time to pop the question. This is the part of the show where we dive deep into the main episode of the topic. Nope, the main topic of the episode.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Not only did you reverse those words,
Right.
but you also always say where we dive deep into the topic of the episode. But I would think that you would say
Deep dive.
deep dive into
Right.
that's like the phrase. But I've noticed when I've
Oh.
listened back that you always say dive deep.
Well, you know, that's a little artisanal flair.
Artisanal flair? This is an artisanal. Okay, go ahead.
Anyway, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Oh, deep dive. Oh, interesting. Well, this show's a little different. We dive deep. And this week we'll actually be getting very deep indeed, talking about family estrangement.
Mhm.
Take it away.
Yeah, so I have been on and off estranged from my parents for probably the past 7 or 8 years. And it often comes about when I am in romantic relationships that they are aware of.
Mm.
And so when I have a serious girlfriend or wife, I would say you're a serious wife at this point.
Thank you.
You're not just like a casual wife.
I thought I was signing up to be a casual
Yeah.
wife, but it turned out to be quite serious.
And I think that is in part because my mother in particular might feel threatened or likes to control things within our home, both growing up and as an adult. And, you know, I also think that she has a lot of trauma of her own from relationships. And I think she was always very scared of like someone hurting her child. And as a result, she like really comes after whoever my sister or I are dating at any given time. And it becomes this really awkward place that you're in where you want to honor your parents and you want to respect them, especially as they're getting older. But also you have to stick up for your partner. And pretty much every serious relationship that I've ever been in, at some point or another, someone has said, when am I going to meet your parents? And I have put it off, and that is almost always interpreted, understandably, as he's not serious about me.
That didn't happen with us.
I think by us, you did ask, when am I going to meet your parents? But
I also understood the lay of the land.
you didn't understand how bad it was. And it might have been because I remember this, because I remember you asked, and I was like, here we go again. And it was not your fault. Like, it's, you knew that there was problems, but I don't think you understood the extent of what was coming our way. And I explained it to you. And by then I also had the language to explain it. I had a lot of experience. You had a lot of more capacity to understand it too, I think, just like maybe being older and wiser and as steeped in mental health as you are. And so we navigated that together. But yeah, it's a really tough thing when you have to choose between, well, no, it's not tough. Like, it's an easy choice. I choose you every single time, but it's a painful choice.
I think the broader perspective too is it's not like you only have conflict with your parents around your partner, right? Like
That's true.
There's been a lot of pain and hurt and bad behavior just throughout your whole life, and like towards you.
Yeah, 100%. I think probably what it is, and I think that's a good distinction to draw out, is that at least for me, I'm very good at like absorbing those things and like not like dealing with them, or like dealing with them through humor or denial or repressing them. But when you're in a relationship with someone who is not going to do that, like those are the occasions to really like you have to like stand up for your partner.
Mm.
And I've done that for you. I've done that for other people that I've dated seriously. And so it causes conflict. Whereas if it was just about me, yeah, it might cause conflict. There might be a fight. But there's also like this thing in my house that I suspect is in a lot of families that are dysfunctional, where there would be these knockdown, drag out fights. And then in the morning, it was like it never happened. And if you were still upset about it or wanted to talk about it, or it was like, stop being so sensitive. Why are you so sensitive? I heard that a lot. And so you just kind of get conditioned that like, yeah, these things happen, and then you move on and you forget about it. And it's like, you know, for the longest time I like was like, we're Italian. Like we're hot-blooded Italians. Like that's just how it goes. And then like as you get older and you like date other people, you're exposed to other family cultures, you're like, oh, this is actually like quite unique to our dynamic. And then I would also say that like another thing that is incredibly difficult about it is that like in some sense I wish it was like a tidier story. Like, oh, my parents are so terrible and all they've ever been is terrible. But the truth is that like I often have flashes of like remembering beautiful moments of like my mom being like a really caring, wonderful mother, or like us laughing together, or like my father like and I enjoying each other, like core like moments that I have these memories with them that are both like core traumas, but also these core like memories that are the basis of my understanding of family and love and like being protected for. And so you live in this really ambiguous space or ambivalent space where you feel torn between these two feelings. And that conflict and friction creates, I think, all kinds of feelings of shame and guilt and redirected anger and confusion about like what to expect from love, what to expect from partners. And it like really, really took me a long time to like understand that I was projecting some of these things onto my romantic relationships, onto my other relationships in my life.
In what way?
Like, I would say like expecting that love will be taken away at any moment,
Mm-hmm.
that people will give you some kind of love or validation, and then in the morning we'll pretend like it never happened. And if you know, in the, you know, I'm in the morning, I'm saying like, I'm comparing it to my family. I mean, more just like in dating, like on the next date or the next, you know, next time you talk to them, it'll be taken away.
Very
and
conditional.
yeah,
type of
exactly.
love.
Very conditional. And that like bracing constantly for that and fearing it, and that is no way to be like a present person
Mm-hmm.
in a romantic relationship or to be like securely attached. There's been a backlash lately
Mm-hmm.
to like people who have decided to go no contact or limited contact. I don't really understand all the distinctions myself, because like sometimes I will communicate with my parents over email, but like to be estranged essentially and from them as like this millennial, like I'm just like hashtag protecting my peace, and like, you know, like setting boundaries is the most important things, and we're like individuals and like whatever. And like there's been a backlash of being like, well, you know, the family is important, like you owe something to your parents, you like or like, you know, breaking up the bonds of of family should not be so glibly
Mhm.
destroyed. And I just want to say, to like validate the experience of people who might be in a similar one as mine, is that I have never met anyone in this similar experience who thinks that it is just easy to do this. You are like socially and biologically tied to these people. Like, I want one of the I could want few things more than for like a reconciliation, and for them to like engage with me and with us and with our son in like a normal way. Like, that is 100% a fantasy. And the reason why I have explicitly asked for you to not talk about this publicly, and that I haven't done it up until now, is because I hung on to that hope that with enough time we would come back together. And like, the decision to do this is painful, and it continues to be painful. It is like a daily uh pang that you feel. But then you keep but that with enough time you keep returning to like trying and trying and trying, years of trying, and you're not getting anything. And at a certain point, like, I have started to realize that it like has taken a toll on me,
Yeah.
and that, like, I write in my first Substack about rage I felt, and like me behaving like raging in a way that I don't normally in my day-to-day life behave. And so like, I am out of control when I'm dealing with this
That's why
topic.
I thought it was interesting that you said that you know, when you're handling it by yourself, it doesn't impact you that much, and I don't necessarily think that's true.
No, 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 no. It's just the conflict has less friction
Mm.
because I can slither my way out of it. I'm good at kind of pushing it down and repressing it, at compartmentalizing it, at redirecting. Like, I'm an expert, like, maestro of like
But there are flare-ups.
yeah, for sure.
I mean, like, it's not always repressed, right? It's repressed
Yeah.
up until, the most anger I've ever seen from you was in response to something from your parents,
Yeah.
and, like, you almost threw your phone,
Yeah.
and that was, like, a real moment of, like, "Oh, I've never
Seen that.
I've never seen this before."
Yeah.
But having an understanding of, like, that that's just a reaction to so much pain.
Years. Years of this crap. Um
And that's, like, what's been tricky for me to
yeah.
navigate is, like, I feel very thankful that by the time we met, I had already started my psychology degree, because one of my classes was, like, about, family therapy, and, like, the professor was like, estrangement is, like, last resort. Like,
Yeah.
it is so very painful for people to be estranged from their families. And I think if I hadn't had that insight, it would have been really confusing to me why you were even still in touch with them by the time that we met.
Yeah.
Because, like, my instinct is like, oh, this person keeps hurting you, you just cut them off.
Right.
Whereas, like, I had to, like, understand, like, no, but that it's your mother, it's your father. And
Yeah.
so um I tried, you know, was always encouraging you to keep in touch with them,
Yeah, for sure.
despite their belief that I was doing the opposite.
Yeah, I know. Well, my mom is very obsessed with like the idea that like the people or the women in my life are trying to control me and manipulating me. That's like a common theme in the thing. So yeah, you were
But behind the scenes, I was very much encouraging you to
100%.
continue the relationship. But it was this tricky thing for me, because it was like, also, this person was hurting the person I cared the most about.
Yeah.
And so it was like this thing of, like, I'm so mad at them.
Right.
I'm so mad, and um like, almost almost like disgusted by the way that they've treated you. But then I also have to try to nurture the relationship for your sake. but it's counterintuitive because it's like, oh yeah, let me just like keep putting my loved one in this pen with a lion
Yeah.
because they really love the lion and the lion, right? And it's like, and I'm like, all right, we're going to visit the lion today, and I
Right.
just like pray that the lion doesn't like gouge your eyes out.
Right.
But to deprive you of the lion would be perhaps the wrong choice. Like that's like where it gets so tricky.
Right. Right. And that's why, let's like push this lion metaphor as far as it can possibly go. But it's like, because sometimes you see the lion and the lion kind of gives you a little nuzzle,
Right.
a little like, a little lick, and it's like wonderful. And when our parents met, like your parents were kind of like, that went great. Your mom was always giving my mom the benefit of the doubt, the completely understanding. I mean, far past anyone's. Your mom had so much grace.
But it honestly would often upset me
Yeah.
because your mom has lashed out at me quite a bit and
Yeah.
has said some really awful things about me. And,
Yeah.
and then I wanted my mom to be my protector.
Right.
Where I wanted her to be like, how dare you speak to my daughter this
Yeah.
way? But instead she came from the more mature and empathetic understanding of like, that's not the appropriate response. Like she was always so kind to your mother, always like,
So kind.
interested in like connecting with, and I was like, I could logically understand that was the right way to be, but
Yeah.
emotionally I would often kind of get mad about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, no, this makes total sense. Especially in dysfunctional relationships, in family dynamics, at least in my experience, is like so much becomes about power.
Mm.
Like families are not democracies. They're little dictatorships. And like they just are, And like when we have our baby in a few months, if the baby is like, I want to like smear poop on the wall, he might do it, but like that's not in the charter of our dictatorship. Like
You think you're gonna be able to stop your kids from smearing poop on
I'm
the
just
wall?
saying there's like rules. Like there
Yeah,
like
but a dictatorship I think is a little skewed from your perspective of like there was one person at the helm, right, in your family
Yeah.
dynamic.
Well, okay. Well, just like go with this as a metaphor.
Okay.
Like it's a
'Cause
benevolent
are you saying
dictatorship.
that both the parents are the dictators, or
No,
what?
in a sense, yeah. Like it's not equal. There's not an equal power distribution between parents and children,
Right.
and there shouldn't be. Like,
Mhm.
but as you get older, in any family relationship, I think you have to like renegotiate the terms of the power. Like you become an adult. As you're becoming an adult, you're granted more freedoms. You're allowed more privacy. You're like there's just like a renegotiation of the relationship. And that is something that like securely attached present people should be able to do. But when you're in a situation where the parental figure or figures are so obsessed with maintaining their power, maybe not consciously, but subconsciously or whatever, it's really hard to like have any kind of relationship because they don't want to renegotiate like the terms of power. I mean, how many times in my life have I heard, I'm your mother, I'm your father? It's like, well, I'm your son, and we're like, and I'm like an adult. And like, I deserve respect and you should be listening to me and taking my advice, and I should be able to choose like what dinner plates go on your registry, and like, like I should be able to control all these things in your life because I am your parent and that is what is right and good and proper, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But what they're really saying is that I should have power over you that I had when you were a child. And there is a part deep in my brain, like probably the oldest parts of my brain, the most primitive, that understand and acknowledge and play by those rules and think that those rules are right because that's what they were conditioned toward. And then I have the more adult parts of my brain saying, no, this is nonsense. Like, we need to like have a healthier dynamic here. But like, I think that like literally different parts of my brain react different ways to them and to this dynamic, and that creates like that dissonance is like the source of so much of the pain.
Because you struggle to know which side of yourself to be true to.
Yeah, or like the doubts you feel when you do know what side of yourself to be true to. That little voice, nagging voice in your head that is like, your parents are going to die soon. And like flashes of little moments, like my mom pushing me on my bicycle as I learned how to ride my bike. Or like when I learned how to write my name. My father and I at Yankee Stadium, like laughing with our arms around each other. You know, I can also bring up all the terrible, awful things, right? And how those fleeting moments were often then met with who knows what at any given time, right? And that's what sort of created this maelstrom of a relationship. But it's still there. And so it's not, one, it's not easy to do. But two, it's just like, you can't really quiet those good things. And honestly, I'm not really sure I want to quiet them, because it does remind me of the things that I love about my mother and my father. And I want to hold on to those memories while still understanding that is some version of them in the past that they are no longer capable of, or they're no longer capable of with me in this 35-year-old body with a wife and a soon-to-be son and, a life that is independent of them, that they can't control and that they have to accept. And so, and I also think there's a political component to a lot of that, which is like they are MAGA and have just like gone off the deep end with that stuff. And, that I would be fine sitting at dinner and not talking to them about politics, even though I find what they support despicable. But I could do that. I could compartmentalize that easier than maybe some other people can. But they can't. Like, they're incapable of it because their whole worldview now is shaped by this ideology that they subscribe to. And so unless you are actively a part of it, you're against it, or you're, and they know my politics, like they know I'm against it, and they're not willing to stop talking about it because they're just so in deep with it. And so it's just really tricky. Sorry I'm talking so much. I feel like you should dive in. I mean,
No.
This has been an awful thing for you too, because like when you marry someone, part of the joy of it is to like get in-laws. I mean, I know, they're like traditionally a difficult or thorny part, but I remember you told me that like someone you talked to was like, are you sure you want to marry him because his parental situation is a mess? And I remember just like when you told me that, like my shoulders went up of like my fight or flight, like again, they're going to ruin something for me, not this person, but my family. But also like, I'm sure that there were plenty of other people that I was with that they were like, either an advantage of breaking up with him is that I don't ever have to deal with this family again. Or he's estranged from his family. That's a bad sign. Red flag. I'm gone. And I'm so grateful to you that like you were able to put that aside and, take the shrapnel that you've had to take from all this. I feel so guilty about that you've had to be like subjected to this, and that like, those are things that usually the things that like fire me up the most is when like my mom comes for you. And I feel like if ever I feel like toxically male, like, and want to like fight for my woman and like, just like say the nastiest things imaginable. It's like when when my mother comes at my wife. It's like or my father, but my father's a different animal to unpack. But
Well, to me, it was always about what's our relationship, right? So
yeah,
I could not have been in a relationship with someone who was going to prioritize their parents' beliefs and sort of, I mean, are we allowed to say sort of abuse? Like like if you had sided with them over these things,
yeah,
right? If you had tried to convince me that like that this behavior was appropriate or okay or that we should just take it or
yeah,
that like that's very different to me than what it's always been, which has been you our dyad, coming first and you protecting me and you recognizing like what behavior was not okay. And it also like allowed me an opportunity, I think, to protect you, to
mm,
like sort of like um, show you the possibilities of like secure attachment and that like I'm not going anywhere.
yeah,
Um, and I'm like, why did I tell you that someone said that to me? But I think I must have told you that because to point out that that's so not how I felt about it.
mm,
That like maybe I shouldn't have shared that with you. I mean, that's always the tricky thing. What do you share? What do you not with your partner? But like, to me, when someone said that, like my reaction was like, no, like the parents are our problem,
mm-hmm,
but they're not like um, a problem that would make me not be with John because the way John has navigated this problem
yeah,
makes me feel very safe marrying him and
yeah,
becoming his wife.
yeah,
And just to like to circle back to the politics of it for a bit,
yeah,
I think one of the main issues that I've observed is like the lack of accountability, right? That like what you mentioned earlier that there will be these really heated, intense incidents and then almost a denial that they ever happened.
denial of reality, where like you were standing next to me. Like
Right.
there's like multiple
Yeah,
witnesses
I
to
never
this.
said that. That's not what I
Didn't
meant. Or
happen.
I
Yeah.
said sorry, so why can't we just move on?
Right.
Right. And I think that one of the real big problems with like what people in MAGA are being pushed is this idea that it's like woke culture
Yeah.
that is allowing their kids to become no contact,
Yeah.
and it gives the perfect excuse.
Yeah.
Right. Like
Yeah.
I think that now in their heads it is like it has absolutely nothing to do with how they've behaved
Right.
or what they've done, and it is 100% just like a woke mind virus that has forced you to cut out two amazing parents.
Right.
And I think that that's probably a phenomenon that's like happening across the country.
Yeah. And I wonder, like, surely there are like people out there that might be estranged from their parents or considering it who are not we're an easy target because we're like liberal, right? But like, what about people who are like centrist or even on the right, you know? And then like wanting to cut out their parents makes them like it's like, I don't know. Or even people who have like liberal parents who are awful and you want to like cut them out. The framing is so unfair to the
Right, that
experience
it's
because
like
it's so unpolitical.
right.
It's just so
It's so deeply personal, and to frame it as sort of this phenomenon that
Yeah.
is happening, I feel is so damaging.
right.
And
Like we were reading
incorrect.
Jacobin and suddenly we're like, let's cut out our parents. Like, no, that's like not what happened.
But I think it also allows the perfect excuse,
Yeah.
right? It's like if they're talking to their friends or family and it's like, well, why aren't you in touch with your kids?
Right.
It's like, well, the woke mob.
Right. And that goes back to my ideology with talk where it's like a theory that explains everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and any theory that like thinks it explains everything is like probably wrong or like overly blunt. And I feel bad for them too, because like I believe that they also want connection and like are hurt by this whole thing. And it's like really a tragedy because it's like two sides want to come together and love each other deep down in their hearts, but a combination of their history, their psychology, their beliefs prevent them from doing it. Like my parents just like don't have the tools to be in a functional relationship with me. They don't have the ability. And like I have to like if I'm going to have like a functional family with you, with my sister, with our son, like I have to just set boundaries, which is the word that they jump on and, despise. But like I just have to. Otherwise, like you just live for them. And, that was maybe okay when I was like 7 or 8 or whatever, but it's no longer acceptable.
And I wonder, like, the question of like why now? Like, why now are you opening up about it and sort of taking, a further step away? Like, I think I've always felt that even during the times when we're no contact with them, that we will eventually be in touch with them again.
Mm-hmm.
And this time feels a bit different.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it is because of us, bringing another person into this dynamic and having a child.
It's a couple things. One is that they crossed a line last November where they said something that was unforgivable in my mind, and they have yet to take any accountability for it and have doubled down on it. They've also threatened to make moves to cut me out of their will. And like, whether or not they do that or not, and of course that plays on my anxieties of living under a bridge, as we've discussed previously on this show. But whether or not they do that or not, the fact that they are wielding that and using that is so gross. And then in addition, bringing my son into this world. Well, you're bringing my son into this world. My part was brief, but triumphant, ultimately successful. But bringing this kid into this world, yeah, like wanting to protect him, wanting to model parenthood for him and masculinity for him in a different way, and then also selfishly, like getting back to my Substack, like I've been searching for a thing to write about. And a way to write about something that makes me still feel like a writer if I'm not getting paid from like a Hollywood studio. And like what better thing to write about than like the foundational experience of my life, which is like the one between me and my parents, and the one that I think so much about and has affected me in all these like unforeseen ways. And so like that just hit me that like I should write about this with respect and nuance and like introspection, knowing that one day like my son will possibly read what I'm writing and what maybe he could glean from it. And anyone who like signs up, they'll see that like I don't really have like prescriptions or like anything. I'm just trying to like sort it out. I hope in some sense it's like a good book where you can kind of reflect and like argue about it or like think, poses thoughts in your own life. And so as opposed to me just like being the estrangement teacher or some guru or whatever, like because I'm not. I'm just a person who like tries to think deeply about it and has experienced it like for too long. But yeah, so I think that's it. I think it's a combination of writing our son and that it just doesn't, they've just gone too far and they've just, no matter how many times I try to extend a hand and make it work, it just doesn't.
Yeah, I think something has shifted for me, since November and those things said and some things afterwards, and where it's like I felt like I could tolerate being in touch with them, and now it feels like too much of a threat with a kid.
Yeah.
Like I just sort of reached a point where, for a very long time it was like whatever John wants to do, like I'll be there, we'll do what
Yeah.
I'm taking his lead. And then I kind of got to a place, and maybe it was just like because I'm pregnant, or like, and I like can't handle that level of stress, where I was like, well, at least when I'm pregnant, like I can't see them.
Yeah.
Like that was like the first time where I felt like, oh, actually, like if he wants to reconnect with them, if he wants to see them, like he can, absolutely, of
Yeah.
course. But like I just felt this sense of like I can't, I simply, like, so much has been said and so much has been directed at me that like I just can't fathom putting myself in the same room as them for the first time. And then became okay, but then once I'm not pregnant anymore, then there's a baby, and then it's like,
Yeah.
and then there was like a brief time I was like, well, I guess John could take them to meet the baby and I don't have to be there. But then I was like, but that's, then I might, like it all just became like it was like very interesting, because I kind of got to this place where I was like, I just don't think I can do this anymore.
Yeah.
And then like that same week you came to me and were like, I can't do this anymore.
I'm glad you said that, because I think that's also a major thing. It isn't just about our son, it's about you. Like sometimes you would even ask me, like, can I read the emails? Because we would get a laugh out of some of them when we check them. There's like a private email address that they can send to, and so that I can, on my terms, look at them. And some of the stuff that gets sent is just so bonkers. It's just so wild that it's funny. And
a lot of stuff about Meghan Markle.
yeah, there's so much Meghan Markle content.
Well, I believe the implication being I'm Meghan
Yeah,
Markle,
you're Meghan
and
Markle,
I've blown up
and
the royal family.
yeah, exactly. And I'm Harry, who wants to go back to, and my mom's the queen, or she's king. The king. She wouldn't be the dead queen. She'd be the king. Yeah, it's look, look, I'm a writer. I guess maybe I got metaphors from my mom. She's just trying to weird metaphors sending me. But anyway, you asked me to read the latest email, and it was bonkers, and we're laughing or whatever. And then I saw it change in you, where it went from like, this is a funny thing that we laugh about and we don't take seriously, to like, it was really affecting you and you were upset.
It was pretty mean.
Yeah, it was so mean. And like, because when I see you laughing at the mean stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, Allison's like me. We can just laugh at this and whatever. But like, it really affected you. And that's like a normal thing. Like, people shouldn't be so callous to their mother-in-law saying this about them. I'm not so strong. I'm like kind of weird in that way, that I have these calluses. And that it bothered you so much, and you were upset about it. I was like, what am I doing to my wife? Like, we can joke about something else. We can laugh about a lot of other things. We don't need to laugh about this, And it's also juicy, right? And so I'm sure that's part of your inclination of let me read them, is like, it's kind of juicy by how wild and crazy it is. But it
was also coming from the point of view of like, I have been under the assumption that we will be in contact with them.
Yeah.
So there was a sense of like, well, we should like have some idea of like what's going
what's
on
the radar.
there.
Yeah.
What's the point of view, what's being said,
right?
Like, and
that makes sense.
Like, now look, obviously, if you ever want to reconnect with them, I'm going to support that.
Right.
And we can examine what that looks like and my involvement in it and all of that. I mean, what I'm feeling right now is probably pretty pregnancy fueled. And so I might be more open to things in the future than I am at the moment. But I will say, like, there is some big relief in me, at least for right now, believing that I don't have to open that door.
Me too.
Because then it's like, it doesn't matter what the emails say. It doesn't matter where it's coming from.
Right.
Like, it's almost like what arguments are we going to have to protect ourselves from in the future when we do re-engage?
Right.
And now, just like this idea that the door is kind of closed.
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't, I don't need to know the details of what's going on behind the door. Obviously, life is long. Parenthood could change us. Like, obviously this is your ship to steer.
Right.
But I think for at least right now, like, being under the assumption that we don't have to open that door has brought me a lot of relief.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I was just like hurting my wife with this, like, in between, like, liminal space that we're in, and probably inadvertently hurting my son. and
hurting yourself too.
hurting my
That's the thing. Like these things do really affect and impact you.
Yeah.
And people often say to me, the people in our life that know the details are like, how did John turn out so great? Like, I can't believe that the guy that he is, it's like amazing considering, what he had to go through. And my response is like, you don't see what the impact was.
Right.
Like, you have built such a beautiful life for yourself and incredible relationships and such purpose and poise. But, being your life partner, I see the pain points. I see the stuff where it's like, yeah, that's the scar.
Yeah.
That's the, the bad knee from the chronic pain, right? Like, and so I think sometimes there's a sense that you want to be like, and it didn't impact me at all, when it really did.
Yeah.
And it would continue to. And that's why it is sort of, in a way, putting yourself in danger to keep getting in the pen with the lion.
Yeah, and bringing my wife and my child in the pen with the lion. But I think that I'm trying to think about strength moving forward and in my writing, not about like I overcame this stuff, that it didn't matter. I am, look at how normal I am and normal presenting I am and whatever. And instead like show the scar tissue and not be like, oh, woe is me. I'm, but to like think deeply about that scar tissue and how it's shaped me, maybe sometimes in good ways, but often in ways that have harmed me, harmed my relationships, and like understand it, like truly understand it is like my main goal. Cause I think like I could get really like I think a lot of times like I wouldn't be ready to write what I'm writing online right now because I'm just like there's too much emotion and too much judgment and too much shame. And now I think hopefully it's still all there, but I think I have maybe like the age and the wisdom and perspective at this point where I can engage with it in a way that I can control it and just try to understand those scars so that I can be a better father, a better man, and hopefully write something of value to people.
Well, I appreciate you being so vulnerable and protective and kind.
Anytime. No problem at all.
Yeah, just the self-sacrifice every moment of every day. But
yeah, it's funny.
That,
I was like, even just like, I keep saying like you're like, it hurts you. And I keep being like, but it also hurts my wife and my son. It's like, I put them in danger. Like that voice is also like that self-critical flagellation is like, even now I'm like, oh, I have such a perspective. Like I just did it again. Like I'm just constantly like critiquing myself. And it's like always trying to find that lane of like being self-critical in like a positive way, in a way that like we want men in this country to like embrace, and being like self-reflective and like self-critical. But for me, it so easily tips into a much darker place because of my experiences. And so, I mean, that's also something I'm going to think about is like, where are those lines? Where do you draw them? Because I didn't know that boundary between those two, And so it's like really easy for me to slip into like, all this is my fault. Allison's experience, like Allison didn't deserve, this treatment, and you put her in danger, John.
Way.
I know you don't, but yeah. I do. And so, to like not even frame it like that,
right,
is important. And so,
well, I'm sure we'll be returning to this topic.
It's unavoidable. It keeps coming back to this stuff,
Well, the other thing we'll return to now is my soon-to-be patented game show, Stay or Leave.
Wow, what a segue.
What a transition.
What a
I was in
transition.
a tough spot.
Yeah.
Because looking at the clock, I know I got to move the episode forward, but
Right.
also I want to.
And things are deep and dark.
Yeah, and it's hard.
And now you got to go to stay or leave?
Yeah, I know. But that such is my cross to bear.
Right. We all have scar tissue.
As the game master.
Yeah.
So this is a game where I present you with a hypothetical situation of what I might do in the future in our marriage, and you decide whether or not you would stay or leave me, because marriage is a choice, not a trap. You could have said it with me.
Sorry, you wanted me to say it. Okay.
That's all right. Not a trap. Good. Okay. So this is very on theme, this one. Without telling you, I sell an explosive memoir about being estranged from my in-laws.
Oh my God.
For $500,000. Initially, this is exciting because we love money. But when you read the manuscript, it is completely fabricated, and I have made up an elaborate series of lies.
Mm-hmm.
When you ask me to rewrite it to be more faithful to the truth, I say, you gotta make it juicy if you want the juice. Would you stay or leave?
And so to you, the juice is money.
Yeah. And like attention and fame and success.
So you got to make it juicy if you want the juice.
Right.
Gotta make it juicy if you want the juice.
Let us know if you want that on a t-shirt.
It's not a good phrase. It's confusing. It's yeah. You make something. Okay, I have to stop thinking about the juice. I could spend a lot of time on that. Like part of me is expecting to say, well, you know, at this point I've cut them out, and you got $500,000 now. You know, maybe you could buy me a nice watch or something with that money. A few nice watches, maybe with that money.
Well, we also have to eat, but yeah.
But also watches.
Yeah.
And so I'm tempted to say that at this point I would just be like, yeah, okay, fine, I'll stay. I'm not happy about this. The correct answer is you leave.
Because also, like, you know, then what happens if there's a huge scandal that it all comes out that it was a lie?
Right.
Like that Frey guy with his book.
Well, I'm less concerned about that, I think. But yeah.
You're less concerned about that just the integrity of the writing and calling it a memoir if it's totally made up?
That's a you thing.
Yeah.
I'm more like, well, okay, they're out of the picture, my family. So my only family is this lady who's making up this wild book.
But then, like, we'd be interviewed and, like, they'd ask you about stories that happened in the book.
Why do I have to be interviewed for this memoir?
Because we have this hit podcast.
Oh, right. I guess then I'd have to think about, like, what I'm modeling for my son and whatnot. If I have to, like, be an accomplice to your lies,
right.
You know, if I could just kind of be in the background while you spread your lies for money and I get some watches out of it.
A real insight.
It's really
into
corrupt.
Your morality.
Yeah, basically what I'm saying is, like, if I could get bought off and stay out of the public eye, I think that would be fine. If I have to, like, go on the news suddenly and, like, defend these stories, like no. Because the stories are juicy enough, so you wouldn't have to do... Yeah, look, the correct answer is leave, but at this point, like, I don't want to leave, so I might stay or...
Yeah, but to be fair... I sold it while we were married, so you'd be getting $250,000 to start a new life.
I could leave you and say, my wife wrote a fake memoir about my parents. My woke wife wrote a fake, and so I probably get like $1 million to write that memoir. So actually, the money play is to leave.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. Good answer.
Good answer. This is our future. This is our future together. Can't wait.
Oh, we made it through another explosive episode of Starter Marriage. Thank you all so much for listening. And if you want to watch the full video version, you can head over to youtube.com/justbetweenus.
And if you want to read more about marriage, why don't you check out I Think, Conversations About Modern Marriage, or Save the Date, a romance written by Allison Raskin.
And if you want to submit your marriage moment, because we absolutely love them, please send an email to startermarriagepodcast@gmail.com. That's startermarriagepodcast@gmail.com.
Don't forget to rate, subscribe to our podcast, and also to check out my Substack, Wrong Man for the Job, on Substack.com. That's Substack.com.
And my Substack, Emotional Support Lady, which we talk about each other on there.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to really see what's going on in both of our brains. That's one of the spots to do it.
And as we say in our home, good night to
you,
me,
the Alibaba.
No, I have to do my part first. It's a call and response.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
Good night to me. Your mother was wrong about me.
You're not controlling at all. Go ahead.
Good night to me, the Alibaba.
Good night to you, the Alibaba.